Good morning. This is Monday, July 13th. I appreciate you all trying this out. Most of you know me as Captain Thomas Quinn, my nom guerre, so to speak. What is this? This is what I hope will be a series of videos for Shin Arashi Martial Arts for beginner level. The advanced students are more than welcome to view these videos as a good refresher and building basics. Okay, who am I? I'm a martial arts instructor. I started studying martial arts in 1992 and started teaching with a teaching certificate in Wing Chun Kung Fu, a Southern Chinese trap boxing counterpunching art in 2000. After having studied with sixth degree practitioner Edwin Skinner in Elkmont, Thatch, Alabama. I eventually got my fifth degree practitioner under him. Apparently, there was no way for sixth to give the fifth to go teach beyond fifth degree, and he has passed since. So there was no way for me to progress further in that style. Over the years, I have formally studied karate, taekwondo, judo, aikido, and informally, via students, picked up smatterings of Muay Thai, Salat, Northern Kung Fu, and anything else I could get a hold of. I am also a licensed massage therapist and a certified personal trainer. I went to college for history and political sciences. For that reason, you will see a lot of those influences in my teaching. All of those things have improved my teaching over the years, I believe. So you will end up with more history than most martial arts classes. I will try, without boring you, to give you as much anatomy and physiology as I can. Okay, what is Shin Arashi? It's a combination of the name itself is a combination of two Japanese characters. The majority of the styles I've studied have either been Southern Chinese or Japanese / Okinawan. So I will use terminology from both languages, sometimes even Thai or Indonesian terminology. I leave that terminology in as a code to people who eventually become teachers to understand what arts the different techniques come from. I believe this is important because understanding where a move came from helps you understand the reasons that that methodology is the way it is. Shin, sometimes also pronounced Nin, is a Japanese character, or Chinese of course, but more prominent in Japanese, for a blade over a heart. Okay. You can take that as being under pressure. You can take that as being being in the shadows, being survival, being endurance, being stealth. Okay. Arashi is wind over mountain or storm. So the way I take that is either surviving a storm or being stealthy of your own storm. Many martial arts have a name for their practitioners. In Japanese, it's usually ka added to the end: karate ka, judo ka, ninja. Okay. For us, we take the mythological idea or the folkloric, more modern idea of the oni. The oni being The Chinese character was originally for ghost or ancestor. When it got to Japan, it became more of a ogre demon. And then in the modern context, it's almost like how you see in European churches gargoyles, scary visages to scare off demons. Um, so when I call my students Oni, it's because they are taking power from something frightening and using it to scare off evil. Um, it's completely a mental thing. Uh, Something to instill in us. Um, the Oni normally exists away from society. They are used to running, hiding, evading, and striking out when they only have to. That's what I want us to take from that. Shin Arashi takes a lot of its operating system from Wing Chun Kung Fu. Wing Chun Kung Fu is extremely useful in close range, anti-grappling, striking situations. The weakness of Wing Chun is the way that it's taught by most schools. Um, it is taught only within those contexts and only punch versus punch for a lot of schools. It does not spend the time doing the two outcomes that we really want. If you punch someone, elbow them, knee them, kick them till they fall over and they're done fighting, okay. But I would much rather punch someone and get away. I would much rather use this ability to stun them and be able to break off from conflict. Sometimes that's not viable, and then Wing Chun is the answer. Sometimes, why fight longer than you have to? So, there's three outcomes we want. Punch them until they fall over and give up, or can't fight anymore. Punch them until they can't pursue. Or third, the less common for us, is to restrict or restrain them. Why restrict or restrain them? Because they're trying to get to a third party, get to an object, get to, or it's, you're trying to de-escalate, but you have to stay where you are. Example, a drunk friend. A family member that you can't knock out, but you can't let them get to their next beer, get to the girlfriend they're going to smack, whatever. Those techniques, the Taiho Jutsu, the restraining or arresting art, will be a lot more difficult to teach in this setting. So you will not see a lot of it until we can get together in person, or I have a partner to work with and you have a partner to work with. But it is a very important component. To that end, it'll be difficult to teach the anti-grappling, but we will do our best. We're almost done with the lecture part, and then we'll go through some beginning techniques. The last thing I want to say is I want you to, in watching this video, in working this video, I want you to work with this. The last 20 minutes or so will be evasion, footwork, stance, that kind of thing. So when working with this, we have to understand before the fight happens, before the conflict happens, what are we willing to do? Okay? Are we unwilling to hit at all? Are we unwilling to maim? Are we unwilling to hit repeatedly? Are we unwilling to cut or shoot or spray with pepper spray or hit with a brick? You have to make those decisions yourself. Okay, it's not a pleasant thing to think about, but when you walk down the path of martial arts, you have to understand situationally what are you willing to do. Okay, when is it the correct time to evade and escape at all costs, and when is the right time to retaliate? Um, what's the correct amount of retaliation? The more you ingrain that into yourself beforehand, the less you will hesitate. Um, Restraint is something very valuable. Okay, so um, the very first thing that we take from Wing Chun is the idea of centerline theory. It'll be kind of hard to see, but this is the best way I have to set it up right now. Right now, Bob and I are facing each other. My nose to belly button, my center line is facing his central axis, basically his spine, and vice versa. So I can kick him, punch him with either hand or foot, but I can also block with either hand or foot. He, if he had limbs, could do the same. But when I step off here, his awareness and intent is still in front of him. Mine is still towards his core. I have optimum use of both hands, both feet. A lot of martial arts teach that this guy, if he turns his head, has an advantage because he presents less of a target. That comes from a modern sports aspect, okay? Where I can't grab a hold of him, okay? Where the back side of the body is not a target, where maybe the legs aren't a target, okay? So we want to put him in the most disadvantage possible. To that end, we're going to start from the very basics today. We're not going to be doing any striking or very little blocking. What we are concerned about today is movement and stance. Stance, or Japanese dachi, okay? We have 3 beginner stances, okay? This right here is neutral stance. If we were standing in anatomical position where we all study, where one would study anatomy and physiology, it would be here, okay? My toes are forward, not my big toe, my second toe is pointed forward. My knee is slightly bent, my hips are slightly tucked under, okay? This is neutral stance. From neutral stance, I should be able to move in any direction I want, the easiest. This is how we should be standing in daily life. Many of us, because of being sitters, being in a chair, so much of our life, have strange posture, okay? So we'll be hunched forward, okay? We want to be here with our spine erect, okay? Our hips tucked under, our knees bent, our toes forward. That becomes very more apparent when we go to one of the 2 forward stances. We're going to go to what I'll refer to as orthodox first. Okay? It is very common for when someone steps forward like this, instead of stepping in front of themselves, they'll step in. Okay? So my stance got more narrow. It's not what I want. I just want my foot forward. It's also very common, especially if you step too far forward, for this rear foot to go out. That's a little bit of exaggeration. It'd be more like here for most people. That's not what you want. Because you want the next foot there. Okay. So this is forward stance, orthodox. This, with the right foot forward, putting the left hand behind, is southpaw. Okay. It is not like a boxer's southpaw, okay, or a karate or taekwondo southpaw, okay, or a wrestler's base, okay. All those have reasons in their methodology, okay. And as we go further into techniques, we will discuss those. But for now, just very natural. Right now, my heel, back of my heel, is lined up with the beginning of my toes. It can be as much as an inch beyond my toes, okay? Getting longer than that goes to a long forward stance, and there's uses for that, but it's not the most common forward stance, okay? All right, so that is the dachi, the stance. Now we want to talk about kame. Kame is hand positions. We take the term from kendo for where the sword is held, okay? We have two kame, okay? So for neutral stance, we can either be in our de-escalation kame, okay? My hands are forward. They are not out. They are not out. They are forward. They are in front of my face, either beside each other, very close, or very slightly stacked, okay? Giving universal sign for stop, okay? I am talking to Bob, telling him to stop, to calm down. But while I have my hands here, I'm trying to look non-aggressive while still having my hands in the way of something coming at me. If the thing comes high, it's very easy to move high. If the thing comes low, it's very easy to move low. If the body comes forward, it's very easy to go out. Notice that my elbows are very bent here, so I can shock absorb or push, okay? If I'm in a forward stance, I am more likely to stack, okay? My lead leg, lead hand, rear leg, lead hand being slightly lower, okay? I'm more likely to stack my de-escalation kame. Same on the other side, so you can see my hands here. I want to put these pointed towards him, okay? So I could reach out and touch you if I had to, all right? Once we know that the conflict is unavoidable, a punch has been thrown, at any given time, we should try to undo that, to try to get out of the fight. But once the punch is thrown, or we know the punch is going to be thrown, our de-escalation kame can become more offensive. My hands are curled. They could be completely closed. They could be just slightly curled, okay? To be able to go very easily from punching or blocking. I don't advocate heavily closed fist, because when we tighten our hand up, it causes our arm to naturally tense. If we are tense, then we are not moving freely. Let's talk about making the fist. I roll my fingers in, roll them in, and drop the thumb over the fist. And I will lock these small finger bones in with this long bone here. I say this now, we're not going to do punching today, but you may see me do something funky with this hand. This knuckle is deformed from an training injury from years ago. So I can't do it properly. So the only reason I go over it now is so you don't do what I do and put this finger over this thumb. Which brings me to the next part. If something that I teach is unadaptable for you for some reason, contact me and we will find the way to fix it, either through training you or adapting the system to you. Okay, so we have talked about neutral stance, forward stance, okay, and de-escalation and offensive combat. So now let's talk about footwork. We're going to go over five basic footworks. So we're going to start from orthodox or right hand forward. If all I have to do is travel a short distance, I'm going to reach out with my lead leg and drag my back leg behind. Okay? From here, okay, the fight started. All right? The guy's swinging, the guy's threatening someone else, whatever. Okay? And you have to close the distance. You've been pushed back and you have to go back in, whatever. Generally speaking, if you're still out here, you can be de-escalating, but for some reason you can't right now. Okay? So, from here, all I have to do, I can't punch him, I can't touch him, I can't grab him. I'm going to reach forward my lead foot and drag my back leg behind. My back foot slides across the earth. A couple reasons for that. The first and foremost being the most stable, okay? You can, if you get interrupted in your step, you are able to regain your balance. All right, so left leg reaches forward, right leg comes behind. You'll notice that my lead hand stays lead. Can't reach him. Okay. Step. All right, that is called drag step, and it is useful for the shortest steps. If I am way back here, and I drag step, two of them will get me there. But inadvertently, I will leave this backhand back. Okay? Let me give a bad example of it. Actually, I can see from my footprint there that my foot was out, which it should not have been. What commonly happens here is this foot is now there, which puts this shoulder further away from grabbing, hitting, punching, blocking. Okay? I want to be here. So that way I can block, grab, punch, whatever, and be closer to kicking, kneeing even. So for when we are too far for drag step to work, we'll do walking step. Super easy. All I'm going to do is move the back leg. And you see that I made too big of a step, so I dragged my rear leg behind me. All right, so watch again. So I could just do this. Still not close enough. Long reach and drag in. Your kame will change with your dache here. Dache being the feet, kame being the hands. If I stayed hands here, now I'm kind of, you can do stuff with this, but it's a lot more advantageous to have the lead hand, lead foot be the same. So, as you come forward, change the hands. Side note, this is your asking hand, this is your antenna, this is your feeler, this is telling you what things are. You can hit with this, but it's mostly to tell you where things are. And while this one's out exploring, this one is protecting the face. Men sao, asking hand. Wu sao, guarding hand. All right. So far, we have talked about how to get from here to here. Okay. What if we're already here? Should we just stand in front of the guy? No. he's got two hands to hit me with, I've got two hands to hit him with. We're, you know, then it's going to be the fastest, strongest, most skilled. So we're going to move off to the side. There's two slight variations to this. The first variation we're going to talk about is how to step off to the side and still be concentrating on him. All right, so let's start from neutral stance. You can do it from forward, but we're going to start from neutral. Say this hand comes forward, so I'm blocking here, okay? I'm going to step this foot out. So it's very much like drag step, but instead of going forward, I'm going around. Okay. This is something that takes a lot of practice. You can set up a chair and walk around it. Now you notice that my center line, my intent, is now kind of diagonal, okay? That is so that I can now hit him with everything, and he's got a weak backhand, and he could turn to get me that rear hand. But in the time it takes him to turn to get that rear hand, my lead hand and rear hand are in his face multiple times. Okay, that can be done from forward stance. It is more common advantageous to step with the lead foot off this. Can you see that my, yeah, you can see that my foot is lead there, okay? But, okay, even though I have a right lead, I could step the other way. It's just a little bit more difficult. Okay, we call that flanking step or 45-degree step because it's 40-degree angle. Flanking because that's what we're doing. We're flanking the guy or girl or individual. Okay, so now there's only two ways. Let's go ahead and talk about an evasion that works with that. I'm here and I need to move out of the way, but I don't need to step. I can slip this way. Okay? I'm moving my head, but never beyond this foot. Never beyond this foot. Okay? And I'll usually cover with a little parry when I do it. Okay? If I go too far this way, I'm off balance. I can't step as well. I can't draw power as well, and I get knocked off balance really easily. Okay? Same with this way. That's just a little movement, and it's a lot in the hips and the knees. A lot of schools will teach it head, and you can do that. Okay, head movement's fine, as long as you don't over rely on it. The slip is something you don't want to over depend on. Okay, the slip can be used to reinforce the flank. Now, I hope you can see here, this foot is still forward instead of turned towards him, okay? This is when we want to run by, okay? I see my exit there. I'm gonna move this. See better, I hope. My exit is there, all right? He does his shove, he does his punch, and I slip and flank, but my lead foot is still forward, okay? At this point, I want to make light contact and drive the rear foot through and disappear, okay? Then it depends on your speed. Then it depends on your angle. Then it depends on how far is the escape, okay? So, it's better, okay, to do that because then they have to turn around than to just be like, now you've turned around and they can catch up to you faster. when you learn strikes and traps, you'll learn to be able to hit on that way by. Okay? When you hit on that way by, then you've given them pause to come after you. Okay? All right. So we've talked about how to get closer. We've talked about how to get around. Now, what if I'm standing here and imagine Bob rushes towards me, shoves me, okay? I'm going to leave my lead foot planted. You can do this reverse, but it's easier this way. Leave my lead foot planted. He's going to come and shove with this arm, okay? Or primarily with that side of that foot forward. And I'm going to pivot, okay? Do this facing you. The force is coming towards me. I leave this foot in and I pivot and then turn that foot. Okay? The idea, if you got somebody at home with you, have them just walk towards you. Okay? All they're doing is walking towards you with their hands out and they're walking forward. Eventually someone could track this, but it's a beginning movement, okay? So they're coming forward just before they make contact. Your hands are up, spin. Okay? That will leave you here. And once again, we have the two options. We can come in at him or go behind him. Okay? Let's do it on the other side. We're here. Pivot. Here. I run into him. Pivot. Okay? If they track on you, you can pivot again. Okay? And eventually you can punch while pivoting or, slip by. Okay? The thing you can't do repeatedly is what we call a fade. Okay? The fade moves the hips away and moves the head away. We're here, and I'm going to take the lead foot and go back. Now, the fade is an emergency technique. You don't want to do it repeatedly. You only want to do it once because you don't know what's behind you. Even if you're in your own home, what pet has run underneath your legs? What ally has come behind you? And you're going backwards. We don't, as humans, we have less power going backwards. I want you to think about pushing a car. We're pushing a car, we're here, okay? So that's the optimum power. You don't have a lot of power going backwards. You don't have a lot of vision behind you, okay? So it's okay to move, okay? That can even be part of the de-escalation to get you space. But you don't want to fade, because then you're going to run into a wall, into a ditch, into a random dog, whatever. So, we have talked about neutral and forward stance. We have talked about de-escalation and offensive kame. We have talked about drag step, walking step, flanking step, slip with walking step, with flanking step. Okay, we've talked about flanking step being an escape module. Okay, we've talked about pivot step. Okay, we've talked about fade. I feel like that's a good amount of work for us to start with. I want you to do all of those techniques, familiarize yourself with them this week. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. Again, like I said, we're not doing a lot of blocks today. We're not doing a lot of strikes. We're not doing any strikes. We're not doing any anti-grabs. What we're doing is building the base, okay? If you know how to step, how to stand, how to move, then everything else will be easier. Okay? Because the way we have to teach the style right now, not having any hands-on, it has to be a completely defensive, counter-offensive art. We can't really go into a lot of the grappling stuff. So I'll close with this. At the beginning, we were talking about kind of the moralities of combat, knowing how far you're willing to go. I really try to break that down into knowing what level of conflict you're in, that can escalate or de-escalate at a moment. Okay, sometimes you don't know how far the opponent is willing to go. So I call it 3 levels of conflict. The first level, you don't want to do anything to escalate. Okay, you don't want to hit them. You don't even want to look aggressive. That is when what we've done today is, and blocks and more evasions we will learn in time, is the most useful. That's when your voice is the most useful. So the second is a mid-level conflict where strikes will probably be thrown, but you don't want to maim or long-term injure them. This is the time when less brutal strikes to the head, when strikes to the body, strikes to the groin, strikes to nerves are more useful in trying to get away. The third level is you are going to have to harm them to prevent harm to yourself or your loved ones. That is when strikes to eyes, throats, breaking of joints, okay, that kind of stuff will come into play. We hope to never go past level 1, you know, but so, and to that end, we will go through them in that order. You will have training eventually that the only way to stop the fight will be to harm the other person. Okay? I try not to use opponent or enemy a lot, because who knows why you're fighting. Okay? Are they drunk? Do they have a mental health issue at the moment? Do they need something you want? Is there a misunderstanding between you? Okay? Is there a way to de-escalate? So, your goal for this week is to try to get your body used to moving in those steps. Feel how your hips feel, okay? Keep your head over your hips, okay? Don't lean forward too far. Don't lean back. Don't lean to the side too far. Try to feel where you have power in each of those positions. Maybe get, if you have light dumbbells or cans of soup, a bag of beans, whatever, hold that in the kame positions, okay? And then walk so you can feel how the weight distribution is different. That will help you understanding how to develop power from those positions. So, I will close by asking you to do 4 things for me. Number 1, be safe out there. Wear your mask, wash your hands, don't go if you don't have to. You know, all the kind of things that we're supposed to be doing right now. 2, within your own ability, within your own spoons, try to help somebody today, even if it's just check on them, okay? Not asking you to get involved in toxic relationships, just check on somebody you care about. Give to charity if you can, okay? 3, if you've gotten this far in the video and you're not bored out of your skull and you want to come back, please like it or comment Feel free to ask any questions. Okay. And 4, do something for yourself this week. Okay. Eat a donut. A donut, not 12. Read a comic you like. Do something to improve yourself. Do something for you within your ability. So be safe. Check on somebody else. Let me know that this wasn't a waste of my time. Do something for you. And I guess 5. So practice. Do the steps repeatedly, 100 times each. You know. We split that over 3 or 4 days, and I will make another video for next Monday. Have a great day.